Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Gate 7 International, your number one English source for all things Olympiacos. By the fans, for the fans. I'm Costa. I'm here today to give you guys the update. The UEFA list is out. It was published after midnight Greek time last night. The Maccabi Haifa games are right around the corner, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, it's less than a week to go. We are Friday now. Next Wednesday, 8 o'clock Greek time, kickoff against Maccabi Haifa in Israel. And as I said, the list came out yesterday after midnight Greek time. Lots of talking points, lots of reaction already from fans of Olympiacos all over the world on social media, taking to the platforms yesterday. Lots to talk about, guys. Now, before we get into it, I know people are already talking about why is Gonzalo Avila not in the squad list? Pierre Koundé is not in the squad list. Why are we playing with four, or why do we have four strikers listed? Let's put some facts on the table first. For the UEFA squad list, we have to submit a list of 25 players. 8 of those players have to be Greek. If we don't fill those 8 spots, there are penalties. That means we have less players that we can submit to the squad list. And we'll see that concretely because I'm going to bring up the list so that you can see it as well. So I was saying, out of those 25 players, 8 players need to be Greek, 4 players need to come from the academy. Now, what are the facts? You'll see this list that you're looking at right now. If you're watching us on YouTube, there are 2 players from our academy that are listed in this UEFA squad list. One is Kostadis Zoulakis and Thanasis Androutsos. And overall, there are 6 Greek players. Zoulakis, Manolas, Sokratis, Androutsos, Bouchalakis, Masouras. That's 6. And we need 8. And now this is why in this list there are 23 players. Because if we don't manage to fill that quota of 8 Greek players, it means that we're -2 from 25. That's why this list has 23 players. I said it on socials before the squad list came out. We have a problem in that we don't have enough Greek players on this team the last few years. Now let's go into this and tackle this because I know some of you are asking about Bagalianis, some of you are asking about Surlis. Ousseynou Ba is in the squad list, but he's there as 4th option. My feeling is that a player like Bagalianis, I think he's a valued player at this club, showed a lot for me in the B team last season and at the end of last season in the playoffs where he got playing time with the first team. He's a good player. He needs to play. I think for his career, it's probably a good move for him that he went on loan. That's confirmed loan deal to Paz Giannina. So he's going to be playing first team football for Paz Giannina this season, a good Super League team that finished high up in the table last season. So would he want to stay as 4th option? I don't know. Again, I think better for him to play. Same with Surlis. If Bagalianis and Surlis were both in this squad list, we'd have 8 Greek players and we could have 25 players. It might be a bit of a different balancing act here. But again, those players, they need to play. Surlis would probably be 5th choice midfielder. You've got Madi Camara, you've got Mvila, you've got Bouchalakis, Agibou, Kane. There's no room for Koundé. There's no room for him. There were rumors already that his agent was in town last week. I mean, this guy, he hasn't been in the manager's plans. Huh? It's clear. He came in last season. He was supposed to be a replacement for Madi Camara. Madi Camara never left. He's still here. Manager, for some reason, doesn't like him. I think it's as simple as that. And I can't see him staying long. I mean, he's essentially 6th option now. So I think it's spelling the end for Pierre Koundé at Olympiacos for me. You could argue, on the other hand, you could have taken him into the list, given him some playing time so that clubs can see him and make it easier for him to sell. There are some German clubs rumored to be circling for Pierre Koundé, so we're expecting a bid there for him. Now, on the spicier topic of Gonzalo Avila, this was to many quite a big surprise that he's been left out of the UEFA squad list. Now, for those of you that did watch the Aris game, it did seem like he picked up some sort of a knock during that game, that he looked uneasy. We weren't sure if he was going to come off. And what ensued was, well, he had a rather difficult time marking Camacho on our right-hand side in that second half. And now the manager doesn't feel like he can recover in time. Maybe his performance in that game against Aris set him back. There are words now coming out of the club that one of the reasons why he's not in the squad is because of a niggly injury that's not allowing him to play at the best of his performance. So that's what we have. Again, if I can just go back to the squad list and show this to you, that means that we have 4 eligible players that can play at wing back. We have Sime Vrsaljko, who came in and started training with the team after pre-season camp in Austria. So there are some question marks among the Olympiacos community. Is he ready? Can he play 90 minutes in both games? Is he ready to do that? Looks like the manager has faith in him to do that. And we're talking about a world-class player here, guys. Like we said it on the deep dive as well that Ari did. World-class player. If he can stay injury-free, for me, this is a player who we can only compare to a Vasilis Torosidis type player. So again, knock on wood, if you can find wood next to you, like knock on wood, fingers crossed, like this player doesn't get injured in these games against Maccabi. Androutsos is the other option on the right-hand side. This is a player who Martin said towards the end of last season in April that he hadn't lived up to expectations. He was sent down to the B team. Now here he is. He's back at preseason. He's in the UEFA squad list. Survivor, Thanasis Androutsos. This is out of necessity too, guys. Because, like I said, we need Greek players. We need youth players as well in this list. Sorlis Bagalians went out on loan. Fortounis isn't being considered by the manager. He's out of the manager's plans. He would count as an academy player too, Mike, by the way. But there we go. Androutsos is there. God forbid something happens to Oleg Reabchuk as well. We have Kitsos that's been submitted in the B list. So technically, if Oleg gets injured, Kitsos could play. But it wasn't coincidence that we saw Thanasis Androutsos play left back against Aris. I think that's the first time in his career that he's ever played left back. I should say at this point that Maccabi Haifa have one of their better players is an Israeli international by the name of Omer Atzili. I think he scored close to 20 goals and 15 assists last season. A player that for some reason didn't make it to the big leagues. He's a big danger man. We need our wing backs to be fully fit, concentrated, ready to go. That is a danger man in the opposition side on the wings. So hope for the best that our wing backs are up to par going into next week's game. Otherwise, again, guys, no surprises at centre back. Pape Abusise, Kostas Manolas, Sokratis, and Usain Ubar making up the back four. Centre backs, that is. Then going into midfield, Joao Carvalho makes the cut. Mamadou Kane is in. He's had a good preseason. Manager likes what he's seen. Bukhalakis is there. Lazar Radjelovic. Guys, we don't really have an out-and-out winger if you look at that list. Still no out-and-out winger. The closest thing to an out-and-out winger, a player that can take players on one-on-one, is Radjelovic. And we'll get to transfer updates because there's been a lot of buzz about a winger that we're looking at from one of the top leagues. We'll come back to that later. But, I mean, looking at that, you can see that the manager is I'm speculating now, likely to put his formation that he showed us against Alkmaar. Again, something that, he keeps the team tight and compact, defensive, prioritizing keeping the clean sheet, nicking a goal on the counter or via a set piece. That's what we've seen from the team essentially during preseason. And for me personally, I am one of the more patient ones on the podcast. We'll see if that patience is deserving for Pedro Martins after this round of qualifiers. I don't expect to see good football at this stage. I think the important thing is getting through this round, getting the transfers in, and then him building up to hopefully showing us what he showed us in the first 2 seasons. The football that we saw in the first 2 seasons. That's the hope of any of the optimistic fans. And I would think anyone in the board of Olympiacos is that Pedro showed what he could do in the first 2 seasons, what football he can present with these teams. And that's what everyone's hoping. Whether we're right or we're wrong, the proof will be in the pudding. Those teams, of course, were dependent on good wingbacks, Tsimikas and Omar El Abdelawi. As we've said repeatedly on this podcast, Daniel Podense, God forbid I forget him as well. So we need to bring in left back, winger as well. Let's see, guys. Now, another talking point, guys, is why couldn't he, instead of having 4 strikers, why couldn't he take 3 and then have a position open for Avila or Kunde? That's probably because in the back of Pedro Martins' mind, he thinks that there might be a point during one of the 2 games where he needs to play with 2 up front. And he's shown that he's not shying away from playing two big men up front, whether it's El Arabi and Hassan and Tiquinho and El Arabi. And then he can also play Aboubakar Kamara on the left. I personally think that Aboubakar Kamara is better off playing up front as a lone target man in a 4-2-3-1 system, which is what he said in his interviews he wants to play. He's the only one of our strikers that can run at people, that can take defenders on, that can, has the pace to do that, has the pace to get in behind, chase balls down, press defenders. He's younger than El Arabi, of course, as well. Question marks over his finishing, but he's the one that can play, if you want, that kind of Guerrero role, that player that can lead the charge from the front and press the defenders to make mistakes. We've seen that high press is something that Pedro Martins has been trying to instill into the team during preseason. Maybe the only one of the characteristics that we've seen during preseason that we can clearly see is like, what does Pedro Martins want to do with this team? We've talked about the high press before. I think that's pretty much covering everything with regards to the list itself, guys. Again, lots of talking points. The match is next Wednesday. I repeat, 8:00 Greek time kickoff. Pedro Martins is apparently rumored to be traveling out to Israel tomorrow to watch the Israeli Super Cup between Maccabi Haifa and Hapoel Beersheva, I believe it is. So it's the champion versus the winner of the cup in Israel. So he'll get to see Maccabi Haifa live from the stadium. And then he'll have to go back to Greece and go back out with the team on Tuesday. So the plan is Tuesday, Olympiacos will train in Greece and then travel after training to Israel. I imagine they would have to go to Tel Aviv and then from Tel Aviv take a bus to Haifa. Nearly there, guys. Nearly there. The first official game of the season is around the corner. As always, guys, at this point, I would like to say, if you like what you're hearing, if you like what we're doing, please don't forget to subscribe. Hit the bell as well to be notified of any future episodes. If you like this episode as well, give us a like. It helps dissemination. It helps more Olympiacos fans around the world find this content, find Gate 7 International. We are trying to bring Olympiacos fans from all over the world together, help us to grow this community. As always, thank you very much for all your support. And now everybody's favorite pastime. We're going to wrap up with some transfer news. I'll start with potential sales. So before I get concrete, there's nothing new with regards to the players that are training by themselves at Ready. Nothing for Kenny Lala, nothing for Mario Brusai, nothing for Kostas Fortounis. Maxi Levera, we know, has drawn interest from Cyprus. Omonia, who won the cup with last season, want to take him back. We know that. Let's wait and see. Who else am I forgetting? Ruben Semedo, he's not even in Greece. He's still in Portugal. Probably better off. Now, there have been some rumours about Fenerbahce with regards to Ruben Semedo. There's been a bit of a domino here. And this is where I'm going to bring in Pape Cisse. Pape Abou Cisse is probably our most marketable player right now. And his name is coming back into the press, getting more attention again because centre-back from Senegal, Koulibaly of Napoli, has been transferred out to Chelsea for 40 million euros. That leaves a big gaping hole in Napoli's central defence, and one of Napoli's potential targets to replace Koulibaly, to replace his countryman, is Pape Abou Cisse. Napoli were also rumoured to be interested in Kim, the South Korean international that played for Fenerbahce, but Kim has now transferred out to Ligue 1 in France for Rennes, I believe it is, a 19 million euro deal. That means that Fenerbahce might come back to us and knock on the door for Ruben Semedo. We know that the manager at Fenerbahce, Jorge Jesus, was a former manager of Ruben Semedo at Sporting Lisbon. That's one we need to keep an eye on, guys, until, I would say, the end of the transfer window. Let's hope we can get him to go as soon as possible. There are a lot of players there with big contracts, guys. We see that the club so far is keeping those issues aside, in a sense that they're not saying we're not making transfers until we make sales. The club is busy. And now I can move to potential incoming signings. Now, this was a transfer rumor that came out today. Adnan Januzaj, formerly of Manchester United. Some of you will remember him bursting onto the scene as a young player at Man United some years ago. He spent the last 4 seasons at Real Sociedad, scored 5 goals last season and 3 assists, I think, in 45 games. Former Belgian international, is in and out of the national team. Free agent. Supposedly, some clubs in Asia looking at him. West Ham apparently interested as well. That is a rumor. He is a free agent. He's out of contract. Now, there has been a lot of talk in the press the last couple of days that Olympiacos is trying super hard to finish 2 transfers of a winger and a left back. We can speculate as much as we want in terms of who this left back or who this left winger, right winger might be. What we know is that it's something big. It's a big player from a big league. Now, I know, guys, a lot of you are furiously going on to Transfermarkt and seeing who the free agents are, who are the players that are on Jorge Mendes' client list. I know that Dries Mertens is a free agent. So, guys, a little bit more patience. I think the club has understood that this signing of a winger is really critical, because we saw what happened last year with Henry Onyekuru. We saw what happened last year with Ronnie Lopez. We need to get it right. So if it means we take a bit more time to find the right one, is going to take a bit more time. What we hear is that it's going to be sooner rather than later. So again, we're all waiting with unabated breath on this one to see who that winger is going to be. Left back, we need left back. Is it going to be Max Lowe from Sheffield United, who was on loan at Nottingham Forest? We don't know. I heard some people talking about Tagliafico as well. I think Ajax just signed the new left back. We'll see. Club's working hard on that. So that will come hopefully sooner rather than later. We need those players to come in so that they can be put into the team and that they can play in the next round and they can play in the playoffs should we progress. The expectation, of course, is that we get past Maccabi Haifa. Last but not least, guys, this was brought up in some discussions on the radio today, and I wanted to remind the fans, there are some players in our academy, or rather in the B team, that we need to keep an eye on. One is Dabo, that came in January, left-footed central midfielder from Nantes, high potential, very talented, young central midfielder, again, left-footed. I don't know why we're going after this Callum Styles guy from Barnsley. Yes, Hungarian international, but then if you bring in someone like Callum Styles, then that puts a roadblock, I would say, for Dabo to break into the first team. There was talk of Dabo even going to preseason camp in Austria. He'd impressed at the end of last season, but he had a knee injury. So keep an eye out on Dabo. There's Dibi Keita as well. We didn't see much of him in preseason. The winger, again, left-footed, came in from Real Madrid. Don't forget about these players, guys. Okay? So let's see. Will Martins bring in any new young players into his squad? He did it last year with Aguibou Camara. Will there be another one of those cases coming from the youth team, from the B team this season? Let's see. Let's not forget about those players as well. I think that's all we've got time for today. Kept this one short and sweet. You got your update on the UEFA list, latest transfer news as well. Again, last reminder, guys, if you haven't done so already, please give us a like, give us a subscribe if you haven't done so already. Doesn't cost you anything. Really keeps us encouraged to keep going, pumping out content for you. Thanks again for watching. My name's Costa. This is Gate 7 International. See you next time.